Ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? You're right there, on the edge of a breakthrough, but something holds you back.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're tackling self-sabotage.
Okay.
We're diving into Brianna Wiest's The Mountain Is You, trying to understand, why do we do this to ourselves?
Right.
And more importantly, how do we break free?
You've hit on a universal experience. And Weiss's approach is refreshing. She ditches that old lack of willpower thing.
Yeah.
It's not about that. She says self-sabotage. It's actually a form of protection.
Interesting.
Even if it's based on, like, outdated fears
Oh,
or beliefs we've picked up along the way.
So it's like our subconscious is playing this game.
Yeah.
This high-stakes game of worst-case scenario.
Yes.
Prepping us for a disaster that might not even happen. Like, she even uses the example of, like, positive changes can trigger this.
Right.
Getting a promotion, falling in love,
Yeah.
things that should be exciting can send some people into a tailspin.
Exactly. It's like her central metaphor, the mountain. So your conscious desires, right? Those are these tectonic plates, and they're colliding with these, like, deep-seated fears.
Okay.
And it pushes up this obstacle
Right.
that we feel we have to overcome.
Yeah.
But the mountain is us, this internal conflict we're grappling with.
So it's not that we don't want good things. It's that our subconscious is, like, freaking out
Yes.
about what those good things might bring.
Exactly.
Which, okay, I get it. But how do we figure out what those hidden anxieties, like, what are they even pointing to?
This is where understanding the language of our self-sabotage, I think, becomes really key. Wynne says that those anxieties we have that seem irrational, they're actually signposts. They're pointing towards deeper issues.
Okay.
So, for example, fear of public speaking.
Right.
That might not be about the crowd itself. It might be a deeper fear of judgment,
Okay.
or even, as counterintuitive as it sounds, a fear of success.
It's like we were talking before the show, even, like, positive emotions
Yes.
can mask deeper fears, like excitement over a new job, but it's tinged with the anxiety of, like, leaving behind the familiar,
Right.
even if the familiar wasn't all that great.
Exactly. It's like those optical illusions.
Oh, yeah.
Where what you see first isn't the whole picture.
Right.
We have to kind of look deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. And to make this even more concrete for our listener, there's that great story
Yes.
Wiest tells about Carl Jung,
Oh, yeah.
the famous psychologist.
Right.
As a kid, he hit his head and secretly hoped he wouldn't have to go back to school.
Wow.
He even started having fainting spells because deep down he was terrified of not fitting in, and it took him years to figure that out.
That's such a powerful illustration, I think, of how these patterns, these anxieties, often they're so deeply ingrained, like formed in childhood.
Yeah.
Or through those really early experiences.
Right.
And, Jung's story highlights that even the most brilliant minds can grapple with this. It's universal.
Totally.
But like you said, that first step is recognizing the pattern.
Yeah.
Once we decode those anxieties, we can understand the language of our own self-sabotage.
Right. So we're starting to see those anxieties not as, like, the enemy, but as messengers, right?
Yes.
But they're speaking in code.
Right.
How do we decipher what those messages mean?
Well, Wiest uses this phrase, I love it, triggers as guides.
Okay.
She's seeing those negative emotions that we tend to just push away, like
Right.
jealousy, guilt, resentment.
Yeah.
They're not random. They're trying to tell us something important
Okay.
about our unmet needs.
So instead of just wishing that jealousy or guilt would go away, it's like, okay, wait, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah. It's a total game changer. Let's take jealousy, for example.
Hmm.
On the surface, it might seem like, oh, this is about somebody else, their success, their possessions, whatever. But often jealousy, it's actually revealing what we secretly yearn for, the things that we don't allow ourselves to pursue. So it can be like a compass, pointing us towards our own unexamined desires.
That's so interesting. Like, I'm thinking about times I've felt that pang of jealousy when, like, somebody travels the world or something.
Right.
It's not that I want their trip. It's that, oh, I've just been, like, burying my own desire to travel and explore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or think about guilt.
Yeah.
Wiest points out that chronic guilt, a lot of times that can come from this feeling of, like, being a burden.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Maybe from childhood experiences where our needs weren't fully met. So instead of just piling on more guilt, we can use it as this, like, cue to start setting healthier boundaries
Yeah.
in our lives.
So we've unmasked these protectors. We're starting to decode the language of our emotions. But how do we actually change these patterns? Because it's not enough to just understand them, right? We need to know what to do.
Absolutely. And that's where Wiest gets, I think, Incredibly practical.
Okay.
She offers a whole toolkit
Yeah.
for transforming like self-sabotage
Mm.
into self-mastery.
Hmm.
And a key foundation of that is developing emotional intelligence.
And just to make sure everyone's on the same page, we're talking about getting better at like handling our emotions,
Yeah,
not letting them run the show.
exactly. It's like building a muscle, you know? The more we practice understanding and managing those emotions, the less power they have over us. And we used to provide some really tangible techniques.
Yeah.
One that really stands out to me is this idea of disconnecting action from feeling.
Okay. Unpack that one. What does that mean?
So it means we don't have to wait for that magical feeling of like confidence
Yeah.
or inspiration to strike. Before we actually take action toward our goals, sometimes you got to act, even if you don't feel ready.
So it's like that saying, motivation follows action.
Yes.
We've been doing it backward, waiting for the motivation to show up and be like, all right, I'm ready to go. So sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to act, even if that feeling of being ready, like it hasn't shown up at our doorstep yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. But what about, she talks about all this baggage, right?
Yeah,
That survival mode thinking.
right.
How do we shift out of that to a more, I don't know, empowered mindset?
That's where building what she calls a thriving mode mindset comes in. And it's about challenging those old patterns like the scarcity
Right.
and fear and consciously choosing to kind of like expand our comfort zones a bit
Yeah.
and embrace the possibility of like good things.
Mm.
Good things can happen.
Which, let's be honest, can be terrifying,
It can.
especially if like we've been burned in the past or something.
Right.
It's like we're wired to expect the other shoe to drop.
Yes, totally. It definitely takes courage
Yeah.
and consistent effort, but the payoff, it's huge.
Right.
Because that's how we break free from these self-sabotaging patterns that keep us stuck.
Yeah.
You know, it's about rewiring our brain, shifting from like, what if it all goes wrong to what if it goes right?
Okay, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic here. But she also talks about the importance of actually feeling our emotions.
Yes.
Right. Not just slapping on like a happy face
Right.
and pretending everything's fine.
Absolutely. She's a big advocate for what she calls processing emotional backlog.
Okay.
It's allowing ourselves to experience those uncomfortable feelings, fully without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's journaling, meditation, or like other creative outlets.
Yeah.
It's about releasing those stuck emotions.
Yeah.
So they don't kind of like to control us from the shadows.
So it's a process. We're not aiming for like overnight transformation.
Right.
It's more like uncovering, the most empowered and authentic version of ourselves.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Exactly. And that brings us to a question Wiest poses that I think is so powerful.
Okay.
If social media didn't exist, what would you do with your life?
Wow. That really makes you think.
Right. It cuts to the core of like why we self-sabotage.
Yeah.
How much of what we do is driven by like external validation versus what truly fulfills us.
This deep dive has been incredible. I feel like I have like a whole new understanding of self-sabotage.
Good.
And more importantly, I feel like the power to actually like change those patterns.
Yes. Remember, you have all the tools you need within you.
Yeah.
It's a journey, but it's one worth taking.
Yeah.
Trust the process, celebrate those small victories, and enjoy the view from the top of your own mountain.
And for our listener, if you're ready to kind of really dig into these ideas and start applying them to your own life, Brianna Wiest, The Mountain Is You is an absolute must read. I feel like this deep dive just scratched the surface
It does.
of the wisdom that she offers. So go grab that book, get ready to unlock your full potential, and we'll see you next time.